You are sitting alone in a room. No one else is there. The door is closed. The windows are shut. And yet, for just a moment, the hair on the back of your neck rises. You feel it, that crawling electric certainty that something behind you is aware of you. You turn around. Nothing. But the feeling doesn't fully leave. That sensation has a name. It has a neuroscience, and it reaches back further than your species itself. Your brain is doing something right now that it has done for millions of years. It is scanning, constantly, quietly, looking for eyes, not because you are paranoid, not because something is wrong with you, because the ancestors who did not scan, who did not feel that prickle at the base of the skull, were eaten. You are the descendant of the ones who survived by feeling watched. And that inheritance lives in the deepest structures of your nervous system. This is not a metaphor. This is biology. Psychologists call it hypervigilance to social threat. Neuroscientists call it gaze detection. Evolutionary theorists call it a survival circuit. But what all of them agree on is this. Your brain has a dedicated system. Not a habit, not a learned behavior, but a hardwired neural mechanism whose sole function is to detect when something with eyes is looking at you. It operates below conscious awareness. It fires before you know it has fired, and it never fully turns off. Researcher Arne Oman at the Karolinska Institute spent decades studying what he called the fear module, the part of your brain that responds to biological threats faster than thought. His work showed that the human brain detects faces and eyes in chaotic visual environments at speeds that bypass the visual cortex entirely. The signal goes straight to the amygdala, straight to the threat processing center. Before you have consciously registered what you are looking at, your body has already begun preparing a response. That is why you can be walking through a crowded street and feel with sudden certainty that someone across the room is staring at you. You look up. They are. Your conscious mind did not register their face first. Your threat system did. But there is something stranger still about this mechanism. It does not require an actual observer. Imagine you are alone in a dark hallway. There is no one there. You know there is no one there. And still, the sensation arrives. Something is watching. What your brain is doing in that moment is not malfunctioning. It is running a probability calculation so deeply embedded in your neural architecture that it cannot be turned off by logic. The system asks, what is the cost of assuming nothing is there when something is, versus assuming something is there when nothing is? The asymmetry is brutal. A false positive, feeling watched when you are not, costs you a moment of anxiety. A false negative, not feeling watched when something is there, costs you your life. Your brain, optimized by millions of years of predator pressure, always bets on the watcher. This is what psychologist Michael Graziano at Princeton calls the attention schema theory. His research suggests that your brain builds a model of attention, not just your own, but of everything around you that might be attending to you. You do not experience the world directly, you experience your brain's model of the world. And that model includes invisible watchers, inferred presences, the ghost of an eye that may or may not exist. It is why you feel uncomfortable when your back is to an open door. It is why you glance at your rearview mirror more than you need to. It is why, in a completely empty house, a creak in the ceiling sends a chill through you that no amount of reasoning can fully erase. Now go further back, much further. Long before modern humans walked the savannah, your ancestors lived in environments where the threat of being watched was not a philosophical concern. It was the defining condition of survival. To be seen by a predator before you saw, it was, in most cases, a death sentence. To be watched by a rival from the trees above, watched without knowing, meant ambush, displacement, death. For tens of millions of years, across countless species that eventually produced you, the penalty for not detecting a watching presence was removal from the gene pool. The result is that you did not merely learn to fear being watched, you were built to feel it. The sensation was selected for generation after generation until it became as automatic as a heartbeat. Neuroscientist David Parrott at the University of St. Andrews has spent years mapping the neural pathways that respond specifically to gaze direction. His research reveals that the superior temporal sulcus, a region in your brain associated with social cognition, contains neurons that fire selectively when eyes are pointed at you versus when they are pointed away. These are not general visual processing neurons. They are gaze-specific detectors. Your brain has dedicated hardware for this one task. And here's where it becomes truly remarkable. That hardware is so sensitive that it activates even for eyes that are not quite eyes. A circle with two dots, a curved line beneath them, a mask, a doll, a painting. If the configuration vaguely resembles a face oriented toward you, your threat system responds. This is the mechanism behind the uncanny valley. This is why the eyes in certain portraits seem to follow you around the room. This is why dolls with painted eyes unsettle adults in a way that defies easy explanation. Your brain does not wait for confirmation. It pattern matches and reacts. Speed matters more than accuracy. But there is another layer to this, and it is the one that reaches deepest into what you are as a social creature. Being watched does not just threaten you, it also changes you. Psychologist Nicholas Epley at the University of Chicago has studied how the sense of being observed, even the mere presence of eyes, alters human behavior in profound and measurable ways. In one well-known experiment, an image of eyes placed above an office coffee station increased the amount of money people voluntarily left in an honesty box by nearly 3 times, compared to a control image, not real eyes, not a real person, a photograph of eyes. The brain responded as if supervised. This is called the watching eyes effect, and it operates entirely below conscious deliberation. You do not think, there are eyes, therefore I should behave well. The shift is automatic, reflexive, pre-rational. What this means is that your nervous system was not only designed to detect watchers, it was designed to be regulated by them. You evolved as a deeply social animal embedded in groups where reputation, cooperation, and mutual monitoring were survival tools as important as speed or strength. Being watched kept you honest. Being watched kept you in the group, and being outside the group, alone in the dark, without eyes to be seen by, was itself a death sentence. So the feeling of being watched carries a double charge. It is threat, and it is also, underneath the threat, connection, presence. The unspoken confirmation that you exist inside a social world that notices you. This is why solitary confinement is one of the most psychologically destructive conditions humans can be placed in. The removal of all observers, the absolute absence of being seen, begins to dissolve the sense of self. Because your sense of self was partly constructed through the experience of being seen. You are, at a neurological level, a creature who is partially constituted by the gaze of others. The philosopher Charles Taylor called this the dialogical self, the idea that human identity is not formed in isolation, but in ongoing relation to others who witness us. But he was describing, in philosophical language, something your nervous system already knew. You need to be seen. And the system that warns you when unseen eyes are present is the same system that hungers at the deepest level for the real thing. Here is the counterintuitive truth that takes all of this somewhere you may not have expected. That eerie feeling, the watched feeling, is not a flaw in your perception. It is not a remnant of superstition, not a glitch, not evidence of anxiety. It is one of the most sophisticated survival technologies ever produced by biological evolution. It kept your ancestors alive through millions of years of predation and social complexity. It fine-tuned itself across generations until it became so sensitive it can detect the ghost of a gaze from a painted face. The fact that it fires in a quiet room, in a modern apartment, in a world that no longer contains the predators it was built to detect. That is simply the cost of carrying ancient hardware into a new world. Your nervous system does not know that the forest is gone. It only knows how to keep you safe as if it isn't. So the next time you feel that prickle at the back of your neck, that quiet certainty of eyes you cannot locate, do not dismiss it as nothing. It is one of the oldest voices in you. It has been whispering the same warning in the same way since before your species had a name. And somewhere in that whisper is the reason you are still here to hear it.